You're seeing the new Parliament building. Well, that's a sight for sore eyes. As the Finance Minister has arrived, remember the Parliament session is starting in about an hour's time. It is going to be a restricted session. Yes, in technicality, it's a vote on account. You can argue whether the budget per se is taking that into account and is preparing the headway for a different budget at some other point of time. You can also argue that what needed to get done is already getting done. So now this is about putting it all together in a perspective, in a compendium, rather than anything beyond that. Let me quickly open this up to our conversations through the course of the day. And the big ticket, of course, happens post the budget speech when we get an understanding of what has happened. What is the minutiae? What's the devil in the detail that's actually going to impact our lives on an immediate basis? There is going to be a political conversation, obviously, through the course of the day. You can predict it. There'll be some people who will absolutely hate it, whatever happens in the next couple of hours, and some people who will absolutely love it. But there is a general election looming. We can't pretend it's not happening. It'll be naive to do so. There is a general election looming. There have been times in the past where a budget you could expect that it's going to be all sheer populism and everybody's going to get a freebie. Is that the case? We'll soon find out. Probably not. Seems to be the overall picture. Sunil Gupta is with us in this morning. Avneet Marwa is also joining us in the morning. Vinay Sinha is joining us this morning as well. Gentlemen, good morning. Sunil ji, let me quickly touch base with you. Let's get into the brass tacks because the devil is in the detail. For people watching the broadcast, they want to know what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen on April 1st, regardless of the elections. They want to know about their petrol prices and their taxation. Are we expecting anything that the budget can do to make life a bit easier for the middle class?
Good morning, everybody. न्यूज़ नेशन के दर्शकों को नमस्कार. इस बजट में जैसे कल इकोनॉमिक रिव्यू पेश किया गया है, तो साफ से लगता है कि लास्ट बजट है इस गवर्नमेंट का, तो कोई इकोनॉमिकल और बहुत सारे बेनिफिट नहीं आएंगे, पर टैक्सेशन में उम्मीद कर रहे हैं कि काफ़ी सारी छूट और रिबेट आएंगी और फ्यूल प्राइसेस को लेके भी उम्मीद है कि काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें डायरेक्शन में आज वो करेंगे, जिससे कि अगले 2 महीने में वोटर्स को एक बार इम्प्रेस कर सके और साथ में ऐड कर सके. इस रिव्यू बजट में जिस हिसाब से कहा गया है कि हमारी जीडीपी ग्रोथ 7% का एक्सपेक्टेशन है और हम 2030 या उससे पहले हम वर्ल्ड की 7 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी बन जाएंगे और 3rd लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी बन जाएंगे और 2050 तक हम लोगों को उम्मीद है कि हम डेवलप कंट्री के रूप में बन जाएंगे. तो जो गवर्नमेंट का मेन फोकस है इस बजट में भी शायद वही रहना चाहिए कि युवा किसान नौजवान और अन्नदाता पे फोकस करके करेंगे, तो काफ़ी उम्मीद है कि महिलाओं के लिए और किसानों के लिए काफ़ी कुछ होना चाहिए. तो इनिशियली
Okay, of course, the big ticket item is what? Okay, the devil, like I said, is in the retail. And the takeaways, the reason I mentioned fuel prices, remember, fuel prices are now deregulated. Okay, so it's not the budgetary exercise per se. There is a minute budgetary exercise in terms of cesses that are applied on fuel. Then beyond that, remember 50% of course of the taxes you pay on fuel come from center, remaining 50% come from the states. We don't know if the states are going to come back out there. It does help in terms of the inflationary index, lower fuel prices. But you're paying Peter, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, then the government revenue goes down from taxation both at state and center. So that matters to people because that's a takeaway. You can absolutely pluck that, okay, this happened. Taxation, of course, is the next big takeaway that this happened. Beyond that, there are larger sectors that are emerging. Let me quickly get Avneet Marwa. Avneet Marwa, what are we hoping happens? Okay, because the policies, the plans, the projects, we already know what's in the pipeline. Okay, what is the budgetary exercise today? What are you hoping for?
Good morning, first of all. I think this is the FM will be presenting for the 6th time, and you will see a lot of freebies this time. This is an election year, so I'm expecting a lot of relief, not a lot, but yes, relief in taxation. From consumer durable point of view, I've been requesting the government from last couple of years. They had promised that once the GST return will be more than 1 lakh crore, they will reduce the GST on electronics by 18 or maybe lower. But right now, it's one of the world's highest tax on, especially on smart TVs, above 32 inches, it's about 28%, which is highest. On one way, we have to be one of the developed economies. On the other hand, the taxation on technology is so high, so it's not so affordable for the consumer.
Okay, so Avneet, how do we figure this out? Okay, because this debate happened when the laptop thing happened, right, a few months ago, right? The logic was you want and you face this problem for everything, in photovoltaics. Okay, how much do you want to import from China because you need it today? You don't need it 2 years from now. Okay, and at the same time, how do you make Indian industry go? So you mentioned in your specific industry. What do we need to do to ensure that both the motherboard semiconductor chip, okay, the screen, which is what the TV is, okay, and all the other communication chips, you'll need a Bluetooth chip, you probably need a Wi-Fi chip, that all of these are domestically produced because we have not managed to get the semiconductor fabrications. We don't manufacture the screens and everything. I mean, everybody who's watching this telecast is going to listen to the speech, is watching it on a screen, and those screens may be assembled in India but aren't built in India.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is what we have been candid. We are still an assembly in India. The core production of raw material is still not happening. It's been 10 years now that the Make in India was that how we can shift the core component manufacturing in India. But on the other hand, I will disagree on one thing. Government has given us a PLI scheme. It's industry who's on back foot. There were three major contender for semiconductors and the open cell that we call the glass. So that was supposed to start 3 years, 2 years back, but due to a lot of I would say hindrance that has happened, industry is not able to open. Government has given free hand, by the way, but this has to be taken well from the industry. We have seen some good news in terms of semiconductors, but we are far away from
Okay,
core.
For people watching the broadcast, I'll put the reference of context why we are far away. The reason we are far away is because to get the semiconductor manufacturing fabs, you'll have to figure it out with the Taiwanese companies. Okay, that's the only way you're getting it from. For that to happen, there are a lot of geopolitical considerations, which are very serious ones, because if you are offering a $10 billion, 70,000, 80,000 crore PLI for the semiconductors fabs, the Americans in the past couple of years have offered $100 billion because they also want the semiconductor industry to be onshored into North America because of the supply chain disruptions that we saw happen during COVID. It was so bad that literally cars couldn't find chips to be put in simply to get your Bluetooth connected to your car. It had become so bad. So that's the geopolitical consideration over there. You'll have to do the deal with the Taiwanese, and that is stuck in an onion. Vinay Sinha joining us this morning. Vinay Sinha, in another frontline area, it's already been identified, but identified as a species of worry in the economic survey. Where is AI now? What do we do about it?
From our context, thank you for having me here. From our context, we are doing AI for space. It's not necessarily AI comes with, not all of AI is with caution. There are a lot of things that are repeatable, and those repeatable ones are the ones where these are the things that should be automated from that context. And in AI, from that context, whatever is repeatable, whatever has a set of operations that could does not have enough risk, those things should be moved out of the day-to-day
Okay, all right.
workings
So,
of a system,
Vinay, in a very practical sense, okay, what does AI need? AI needs potentially computing power. Okay, so we need supercomputers in India for sure. We don't have them yet. We are, in the top 75. There's not a single computer in India. You need data sets now to train the AI models. Maybe not in your use case specifically, but in the larger use case. Those data sets are lying with Microsoft and Google. Okay, Government of India certainly has large data sets. I don't know how useful they are in terms of AI and machine learning, but you need electricity. Okay, for these large server bases processing billions of requests per day. And what do we do in terms of making sure that we are building the core areas of technology? We are not simply using ChatGPT as the core model and then building a layer on top and calling it our made in India product.
Well, there's no shortcut to this, but we have the government policy has to make us spend a lot more money. If you want to be on par or taking a stab at competition, you should have very serious double down efforts in building these platforms. While English is talked about in certain circles, Indic languages are the largest set of contributions for India to move forward. There is no one particular system where it addresses our native languages for multiple states, multiple cultures that we have.
Yeah.
So we need to have that kind of a system that can talk, and some of them do not even have spoken or written languages, right? But transactions happen, cultural exchanges happen. These are the things of data that regional or at a local level, these are happening. So
Okay.
we need those kind of things to be happening as
Okay.
well. And for that,
Okay, so what are the gateway user applications? Okay, because government is getting into this. There's an app called Bhashini, okay,
Yeah,
which is meant
I'm
to do
aware of
this.
that.
So just like digital payments, right? There are going to be gateway apps which will introduce this from a very domestic setting. But are we developing these models? Are you confident that Bhashini itself can be a potential use case that we can recognize very shortly?
It will take us some time. Bhashini is a great step, and we need more such steps to be taken. The point here is when we have these smarter tools or systems available with us, we also need to evangelize it at a local level. We also need to have smart system integrations between all this so that we can have the India 2, India 3 to catch up with India 1.
Okay, just stay
That's
with me.
what I would say.
Okay, Joyita Basu joining us this morning as well. Joyita, good morning. General Bhatt is also with us. General Bhatt is, of course, wearing the hat of the Director General of the Indian Space Association. General Bhatt, good to have you back with us, sir. We are in the run-up to the budget speech. Of course, the brass tacks we can sort of get into post it. But this has been a success story. Okay, the Indian space industry is a success story. What does the budget do now in a visionary role after the space policy is already with us that actually helps?
So, we have defined what our asks are from the government.
Yeah.
It's a industry which is in a nascent stage, which requires a lot of fiscal support to really bloom what we want. And that is one inclusion of space and space products for PLI, lower GSTs. The government has given us GST in satellite launch services, but this needs to be expanded to all other domains. We would be looking forward to tax holidays. We would be looking forward to import exemptions, duties, and also capital subsidies. We put a whole list because this sector definitely requires a lot of support for us to be able to compete at international.
General, but what's the projection? If we get there, and in many cases, this is a place where we have the platform already well and truly built thanks to ISRO, but the private sector is getting there. We've just had the first private sector rocket tests happen in the past few weeks. What's the potential? Are we looking at a $10 billion, $100 billion, $1 trillion? What's the potential over the next 10 years?
The study done and the decadal vision which has been laid down by InSpace on behalf of the government indicates that in next 10 years, we expect to reach 44 billion. And that is only 8 to 10% of the global space economy, what it will be there. And out of these 44 billions, a significant part would be exports.
Okay.
So this is the figure we're talking of in the next decade.
Okay, so think about it. 44 billion, ladies and gentlemen, is roughly what we spend on defense acquisition yearly. Okay, so you're talking about a significant chunk of money that an industry which doesn't exist right now is developing. So your CJR on this industry, if you're looking as a place to invest, to think about studying, here is a booming sector to jump in on. Stay with us, sir. Let me quickly touch base with Joyita to get an overall picture on this. Now, Joyita, how do you think the government and its ministry and the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister are approaching this budget? Are they looking at it from the lens of the general elections? Are they looking at it as just a continuity that we are going to release what by de facto is our budget? We don't intend to come back in 3-4 months and make dramatic changes.
Rishabh, given the kind of budgets we have been seeing over the past few years, I would say it's a continuity budget, because if you are looking at it from the general election perspective, I don't think it will be a populist budget. But yes, I think what they will continue with that free food scheme, because you see that is where the populism or what they call that social welfare scheme comes into place. But at the same time, as long as social welfare, welfareism, the net does not cross into the realm of freebies. Okay, I think they will try to maintain that balance. So when it comes to, I mean, quote unquote populism, I think they will go that far and not beyond that. Because if
But
you look,
is that now par for the course? Okay, is that now expected that you're gonna continue with 80 crore people who are getting the Jan Yojana? Some of your schemes are hitting saturation point, right? The Awas Yojana and all of this. So other than outlays there and some table thumping on this, what is the new thing that we can potentially expect? Should we expect some surprises, something big to take away from, which will set the tone for the next 2 months? Can a budget speech do that?
no, I don't think so. Not in this case, because in a way, kind of, I mean, they are also assured. I mean, this is India and this is politics. We do not know what is going to happen in the elections in the next 2-3 months. But I think there is a sense that they are going to continue. They are going to come back, and if this is what their numbers are saying. So I don't think there will be any major surprises. I don't think, frankly, maybe some prices up and down will happen here and there, but otherwise there will be a continuity, because if it is not a continuity budget, in case they are coming back, you see, in sometimes June, July, as you said, they will have to change everything, because ultimately the focus has to be larger on economic path of the country.
So gut reaction, I agree with you. It's a continuity budget. Okay, you're going to see a lot of the schemes that need to be extended for another year, which will be extended for another year to get funded sufficiently. The application of the schemes has been going well so far, okay? Both anecdotally, with the evidence that we can see, is the house being built, did he get a toilet, did that person get a cylinder or not, and both statistically. But Joyita Basu, we've taken it for granted almost that we've had political stability. Like it, don't like it, agree with the policies, don't agree with the policies. We've had a government who can get it done, okay, in the past 10 years. That's the first time it's happened in the last 30. Okay, the last time we had a stable government was the early 90s, which was a majority government. Okay, have we taken it for granted? Have we taken the political stability for granted? What does the country need? Does it need stability, or is it open that too many things have been put into motion that it doesn't really matter what government gets formed?
Well, actually, you see, I think what matters is that, and I'm certain people opposed to this current government will, object to what I'm going to say. It is not just stability that matters. It is also the drive and the push that comes from the top. Until and unless there is the push that is coming, there is a direction, a target fixed, certain timeline is given, and you have the will to or the will to ensure that the targets are achieved. I do not think it is even a stable government can make a difference, because if you are looking at it from the perspective of the states, maybe there are certain states that have had a stable government for maybe 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, but they're going nowhere. Because you see, it ultimately there's a policy paralysis over there. So you see, but to overcome that policy paralysis, even if you have a stable government, it helps to have a majority. It helps to direct your policy towards a certain
Okay, but
direction.
there is a flux. Let's not kid ourselves. There is a flux. Now you can argue whether you like it for the better, for the not better. There's been, I mean, if you're trying to run a government in Bihar, well, every year you are reforming the government in Bihar. There's a government flux right now happening in Jharkhand as we speak. So there is a political flux that is part and parcel of how democracy runs. Governments come, governments go, governments are formed. But I just wanted to put the point out there. We have sort of at the back of our minds taken it for granted, like it or not, okay, that there has been political continuity and stability for 10 years, and general election throw up things. Let me get Gupta ji back into this conversation. Sunil ji, तो फिर क्या हम आशा करें that we have a continuity budget, तो थोड़ा details up and down होगा, थोड़ा allocation यहाँ उतर बढ़ जाएगा, और are you expecting some big ticket announcements which are unexpected?
So last week PM also announced a big scheme for the infrastructure, and 1 crore solar rooftop system in the entire India. So it's maybe boom the economy as well as infrastructure, as well as the global indicator of the population and the climate change to cover that. So hopefully maybe government is announce more such type of schemes in the
Okay,
today
so let me
also
let me let me pick on that point,
keep the
Avneet.
economy and the
Okay,
infrastructure
so Avneet,
facilities.
for people watching the broadcast, okay, we are capable of doing things at scale. I'll give you an example of LED bulbs. Okay, government went and said, okay, we want to shift. It makes sense. They last longer. They are cheaper. They consume less power. We'll just go to industry. It's not high tech in any regard, LED anymore. Okay, so we go to industry and we'll say we are going to put a procurement order for 75 crore, 750 million bulbs. Okay, you create an industry overnight by guaranteeing that there will be demand and payment for it. Okay, solar is another example. Now, once the government comes up with that scheme, because the scheme is already known, what does the budget do today? Are we expecting the budget to say, okay, we are going to provide this much subvention, this much subsidy, this much funding for schemes like this?
No, as ma'am mentioned that it will be a continuity budget. For the industry, it will be continuity. They can't change the policy overnight. As if they have to come back in June, July, they can't take a U-turn right now. So, you have to see continuity is 6 years FM is presenting. So that's a big, that's a big number. And she has whatever she has done in past in all the budgets. She tries to tell the public that this is what allocation of funds I've given and this what we have done. Coming back to LED, yes, this government was very proactive in technology, but what has happened, it has created so much of competition. None of the LED industry or the players that were there, they are very limited today because of the competition.
Yeah.
Nobody made margins, and the initial thing is you're very selective players now that is there. So that really happens when the gates open. Everybody wants to jump in, but they forget about the bottom line. This has happened in numerous industries that government has. Same with solar. Solar has been there from last 15 years. It's been more than a decade. But what has happened? So many players have winded up, and today they have opened the gates. But again, we need to have long-term policies.
Yeah, keep
If
an
we don't have
keep an eye out
long-term
on
policies-
solar, okay? Because like I said, it's complex. You need to
Yes.
build. I'll tell you why it's complex. Complex because the guy who's building the solar plant, okay, he needs the photovoltaic cells today, not 4 years from now. Okay, the cheapest ones are and the best ones are available from China. But you say no, I want to make them here. Which of course then creates a problem because then you can't build the solar plants. So you're stuck in a chicken and egg problem. It's not new in economics. You have to find a balancing act between the two. Hopefully we find a balancing act in several areas like this. But there are certain places where you can go and out dominate, okay, and become where you can say India is the #1 country in the world in this. Solar may be one. The Chinese are of course going to be putting more solar together in 1 year than what is the current installed capacity in India. And India is going to go up 5x. Complete boom industry. So we are talking about boom industry. AI has to be a boom industry. Space has to be a boom industry. Solar has to be a boom industry. Then there are a whole lot of traditional industries that need to be put together. And we have to get so much right in them. Let me get Joyita back into this. Joyita, so we say election budget. We say the schemes happen. If you are a definition of what the new castes of India is, as PM puts it, if you are a woman in this country, can you look at the budget and find specific things for women only?
Rishabh, I think when you are looking at the budget as a whole, I mean, again, we have to talk in terms of the schemes. Who are the people, say, for example, who have been taking the maximum mudra loans? It is women. Well, who are the ones who, I mean, I hope they will rationalize that Ujjwala scheme in terms of prices, whatever the subsidy that will be going into that, that again will be women. So all the schemes, if you're looking at from the government's point of view, it's the woman component that is very high, in terms of girls' education, swachhata, everything, because from toilet building, when you're looking at this, what we have been discussing earlier also, multidimensional poverty index, all the schemes, I mean, all the areas that particular index covers, everything has a gender component to it. So, and that is because you see, and because ultimately the woman, until and unless you are making the woman a productive member of society, there is no way that either her household or family, or I would say her neighborhood, and nothing in general kind of
Okay.
will work until and until a woman is productive.
Okay, so let me touch upon the conceptualization of getting it done, which Joyita mentioned right before this, and let me get Vinay into this conversation. Vinay, government calls it Gati Shakti, okay? All departments working together to get a project done. You had some stellar examples. Indian Parliament built in record time, I think less than 24 months, okay? Look at the number of projects that are getting inaugurated. But are we seeing that statement of intent in getting things done? Is it happening at the union government level? Of course, I'll come and ask you about the states in just a second.
Uh, it's a great question. Going back, I think as a part of a company which is with ISPA and as a part of space ecosystem, we have also given a specific feedback that if you want to contribute to certain multi-trillion-dollar economy that we set ourselves for this audacious goal, this means the spends for the calendar year has to be mandatorily done. We have to do those experiments. We have to have this is what we can call at the government level affordable losses. Build out the IP, build the heritage, and then once you build the heritage, then you can sell within India or from India to the world. Unless do that in a milestone-based, time-bound manner, year on year, quarter by quarter, we will not be able to achieve.
Okay,
It's
all
great
right.
to have the scheme. We have to push it to the next level because that's expected. The government has set us on a path. We have to take
Okay.
it to the next level.
So the swath of the economy. The swath of the economy is telling you that at one level, just allow people to go to the bathroom in peace. Oh my God, how can we be living like that? And at the next level, how are we going to do space mining in 10 years? Okay, so that's the swath. Not all of that's going to be addressed by the budget. Okay, that those days of the budget are gone 30 years ago, where the budget addresses everything. Those things are already being addressed, and now the budget is going to come and dot the i's and cross the t's. Shots on your screen, and an Indian tradition, uniquely Indian. If you never experienced this, ask Mama Papa. The President of India is giving the Finance Minister what I'm assuming is some sweet curd for good wishes for her budgetary speech, and expect Nirmala ji to throw in a few quotation marks and try to make the speech as lively as possible as she has in the past. But you're going to see table thumping from the government ranks, obviously, and that is primarily going to be on the minutiae. The big ticket schemes the Prime Minister has already come out and announced. We mentioned here the solar scheme that was announced as early as January 22nd. Okay, so those scheme announcements. Now this is about what happens to those schemes. So let me quickly get General Bhatt back into this conversation. General Bhatt, are we moving with intent and purpose? We all, of course, want to go faster, but at the union government level, at least, are things happening faster? And I want to then address the states.
As far as space goes, yes, things are moving. What we have done in the last 2 years, be it policy, taking out the regulations, and it is just not the space policy. It is the geospatial policy which came out. It is now the telecom bill. And a very significant thing was the government has agreed to allocate spectrum to space by administrative method to the major decision. And it will really help the space sector to grow.
Okay.
That apart, even for FDI, they have had discussions with us. And for us, our aspiration is we get a very liberal FDI this time. Because money we require from our government, from domestic sources, and also from international.
Okay, so the question then, General Bhatt, is why not do it? What is the reason not to have a very liberalized regime when it comes to space and getting that sector off the ground?
So, one of the challenges, of course, is always there's dual use technology. And this technology is also used in the strategic sector. And because of that, and traditionally, space has been always under strategic or government control. And a liberal FDI policy means maybe you are giving controls elsewhere. So there has to be a balance as to do you want the foreign money to flow in or do you want the controls? But as one has seen with this government in the last 10 years, in telecom, we have gone from nearly 0% FDI to 100% now. Even in defense, FDI has slowly increased from 24 to 50 to 74 in some sectors.
Yeah.
And that is why we are looking at it's the last bastion now space where we are going to have more liberal FDI, and I'm very confident it will.
Okay, 30 minutes left before the parliament session kicks off, and we get the enjoyable realm of wild speculation. Okay, and who doesn't like wildly speculating from everything from cricket to football? Why not with the budget?
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.